Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. This is the 69th part of What If Deku Had a Robot Wolf. I hope you enjoy. Link to the original story and author in the description. Chapter 69, The Funny Number. Day 2 of the camp started earlier than the previous day, with everyone starting their training early. For most of them, it was easy. But for Izumi, it was a difficult wake-up. She was still processing yesterday's info dump, as well as the fact that both Eri and Kota found out about the existence of aliens, as well as hints to the existence of One for All. A lot of information and not much time to process it. She was just glad they only covered a bit about the species these telepaths come from. These Semitics sounded old, very old. They had a vast empire about 3,000 years ago. Humanity was mostly hunter-gatherers, farmers, and pastoralists back then. And they had an empire that spanned the stars. And that's about the time period that their empire had fallen. Clearly, they had been around for a long period of time. Just how old was their species? Of course, Izumi's brain was too tired to deal with that right now, so she focused on mastering Black Whip. She needed to be able to control it. She was close, she knew it. She just had to get the right emotional mindset down. Eri wanting to know more about this Paltheus woman did not help calm her nerves or help her to sleep. Izumi personally did not want to know more about someone who killed a god and had no idea why her little sister wanted to. Maybe the young girl heard the title God Slayer and wanted to recruit the woman into the ever-growing overhaul murder army. Which now included the 40 CI Academy girls, because of course she would tell them. She really had to find a way to stop her from telling people about her past. They did not need an army to face this guy, only about 10-15 guys. You know, Izumi, Durandal said. Something about what Roll said yesterday didn't make sense. She said that different variants couldn't procreate with each other. Then how can they procreate with humans? You're a completely different species on the other side of the galaxy to them. And yet, there are human Semitic hybrids. How the hell is that possible? Another time, please Durandal, Izumi said, panting as she lay on the ground. My brain can't process this right now. Right, Durandal said. We'll cover this later then. Izumi grunted before she got up off the ground. When she went off to the summer camp, she expected to learn how to improve her control over One for All, not learn life-changing facts such as the existence of godlike entities. She doesn't have the available brainpower to wrap her head around how these human Semitic hybrids came about. She then saw Achiko nearby, sitting on a log. Hey Achiko, Izumi said as she walked over to her girlfriend. You doing okay? Izumi. Do I look okay? Achiko asked, whisper shouting as she glared at Izumi, a tired look on her face. Yesterday, I found out that the very being that I worship is a real fucking entity. Of course I'm panicking. I'm like a Christian who just found out that God is fucking real. I could not sleep. I honestly wish she told me that beforehand because I had no idea the God I worshipped was real. And I found out that there are not only more of these godlike entities, but someone was able to kill one of the things. A minor panic attack barely describes what I'm going through right now. I am having a full-on crisis. Well, now that you mention it, you do look a bit tired, Izumi said. Maybe a good night's sleep will do you good? Izumi, this isn't something that a simple good night's sleep can solve, Achiko growled. There is a difference between believing something exists and knowing that it exists. And now that I know that my God is real, I am having a panic attack. Oh, yeah, I can see why that could happen, Izumi said. Releasing your God is real must be difficult to comprehend. What is your God anyway? A being called Mother. She's the only real God the Semitics have, Achiko replied. I only know of her from a prayer my father told me. I don't even know her real name. Izumi looked at Achiko with a confused look on her face. There was venom in those words, about her father. Previously she only had good things to say about him, but now, it sounded like she hated him. What had changed? She decided to not ask her about it. She seemed tired. Best not to inquire about that today. The prayer, on the other hand, sounds interesting. Prayer? Izumi asked, looking confused. Achiko sighed and closed her eyes. Oh great mother, listen to our call. Hear our voices as we ask for your protection against your enemies. Harden our armor so his talons and teeth may break upon it, sharpen our blade so that we might slice through his flesh and strengthen our hearts so we might resist his great terror. Grant us your blessing in our fight against those who seek to destroy us. And protect our souls against the devourers. As Mother commands, so shall it be. You're sure that's a standard prayer? Durandal asked. That sounds more like something you say before going into battle. It is, Achiko said. Rolls told me it's used by soldiers of one of the variants before they go into battle. It's the only one he ever used or taught me. Izumi nodded. Was Achiko's dad a soldier? Sounds like a bunch of religious zealots, Durandal remarked. You don't know the half of it, Achiko thought. Yeah, it does, doesn't it? She chuckled before sighing. You know, life was so much simpler before I found out what I was. Ever since Rolls started telling me about what I am, it's just gotten more and more complicated. Sometimes I wish I didn't call myself Galastram. That brought a lot of attention towards me. Okay, Izumi said. What does Galastram even mean anyway? I don't know, Achiko said with a shrug, all I know is that it is something to do with how people travel FTL. But that's something very complicated that I'm not ready to learn about yet. Izumi nodded. Well, at least you are finding this stuff out. It may seem much, but at least it'll be a weight off of your shoulders. Achiko nodded. As mind-boggling as this stuff was, she was glad that she was able to find this stuff out now. To finally know what she is. Damn her father, why didn't he tell her this stuff? So, what are you lovebirds talking about? Mina asked, popping up out of nowhere. The other two girls jumped back in surprise. How much did you hear? Izumi asked in a panic. Nothing. Mina replied. That's why I'm here asking about what you're talking about. Mina. Toru shouted, slapping her friend on the head. Completely invisible and not wearing anything. Toru. Put some clothes on. Durandal said in a panic. You are naked right now. So, I'm practicing being sneaky. Toru replied. I need to be naked. Also Mina, you can't just butt in on someone else's conversation like that. Toru. I need deets. Mina said. They walked off with Himiko last night and I just have to know what they talked about. Right, Sue? She asked loudly, shouting towards the frog girl. The frog girl riveted. No. I may be her girlfriend, but she's entitled to her own privacy, she said before she shot out her tongue, grabbed Mina, and dragged her over. Please don't eat me. Mina screamed as she was dragged over. I'm not going to eat you. Sue said before she dropped Mina onto the ground. You're too big to fit into my mouth anyway, ribbit. Oh, so I'm too big to fit in there but several tons of explosives are? Mina asked. Yes, Sue replied bluntly. Now please, leave them be, ribbit. Not everything is gossip after all, she said before she walked off. Mina huffed. Yeah, I guess you're right, she said before she walked off as well. Well, that deals with that, Toru said. Well, I'll catch up with you two later. Achiko and Izumi shared a quick glance before they looked back at where Toru had been standing. Toru. You're still standing there, Izumi said with an unimpressed look on her face. No, I'm not. Toru denied quietly. Toru, I can see you, you know, Durandal remarked. No you can't, Toru said nervously. Toru, we've been over this. Your body still produces heat, and I can see that heat, Durandal explained. Unless you find a way to hide your body heat, I will always be able to see you. Toru groaned. I am both glad and annoyed that you can see me, she said before she sighed. I'll leave then, she said before she walked away, properly this time. Achiko and Izumi sighed. They were probably going to have to be a lot more careful when talking about certain things. Especially out here, where there are too few places to talk in private. Again, I liked it better when I didn't know what I was, Achiko said telepathically. I didn't need to worry about people finding out about it back then. Izumi nodded. She felt the same. She'd be shocked if they somehow managed to prevent more people from finding out the truth of either One for All or aliens. Barrows was silent as she followed Slice up the woodland path. It had taken them slightly longer than expected to get here. The train was delayed because of a villain attack, and Slice was rather picky about which car she wanted to steal. She didn't know why the woman was so picky. They were cars. Just pick any car to hotwire. They didn't need to look through 8 different car parks for a car to hotwire. Thankfully, they eventually found a car, a dark green sedan that was shockingly easy to break into and hotwire. It was almost like she already had the key to it. Once they had their car, they drove off, driving for a few hours before arriving at a large forest. They had to ditch the car and go the rest of the way on foot, but Barrows was fine with that. As long as she got some answers, she'd be fine with everything. So, you said you saw a dreadnought around here? Barrows asked, looking around. Doesn't look like much. It's just a forest. What, did you think they would operate somewhere densely populated? Slice replied with a shrug. Come now, these are killers, avatars of death. They wouldn't risk going into a city unless they needed to. But you did see one of them around here, right? Barrows asked. Slice nodded. Yep. But it was about a decade or so ago. There's an old campsite around here as well. It was around that area where I saw them. But it was a while ago, so I'm not sure exactly where I saw them. Barrows nodded. That was understandable. Memories became more fickle as time went on. What was the guy's quirk? Don't know, Slice replied. He never used it. He wore dark purple and red armor the entire time I saw him, so I couldn't tell if he had a mutation quirk or not, she said before she stopped. And here we are. Barrows stopped and looked around. They were on the edge of a large clearing, the remains of a large wooded structure before them. Burnt, rotten wood lay everywhere. Is this the campsite? Barrows asked, a surprised look on her face. What happened to this place? Did the dreadnought do this? Slice shook her head. No. This was someone else's doing, she said somberly. I was only a little girl when I saw them. No, this happened only a few years ago. I see, Barrows said. What happened here? Slice frowned. Argonaut happened. Barrows gasped as she looked back at the structure. Argonaut did this. But that meant. She rushed forward towards the building and started frantically looking through the remains. This was the place. This was where that Greek bastard killed him, this was where Papa died. There had to be something about the man here, something that could help her remember him. A name, she just needed a name. She frantically looked through the ruins of the building, checking the remains of every room she could find. There were broken desks, beds, cabinets, and all manner of other furniture. All burnt and broken. Everything she found was in ruins. There wasn't so much a piece of paper left intact. Barrows collapsed onto her knees, tears falling from her eyes. There was nothing left. Not one scrap she could use to remember him by. Damn you, Argonaut! Barrows shouted, slamming her fist into the floor. How could she have been so stupid to fall for that man's advances? She should have known fucking better. Barrows, what's wrong? Slice asked as she walked up behind her, sounding worried. Argonaut, he took someone from me, someone important, Barrows cried. He didn't just kill him, but he took my memories as well. It's the shrapnel, you see. She tapped her head. The doctor said that the shrapnel caused me permanent brain damage, as well as memory loss. I can't remember anything about him, not even his name. All I know is that there was someone who looked after me, but I don't remember any of it. Slice gasped, a single tear fell down her face. Why, you don't even remember him? Barrows nodded. Nothing. Everything before the day Argonaut killed him was lost. Because of him. He took everything from me. I just want it back, just something. Anything. I just wanted dash, she cried before she noticed something beside her. She looked to the side and saw a book being held next to her head. It's a photo album, Slice said somberly. Atsuo Atsushi, your papa. He gave this to me the last time I was here. It might help you to remember. Barrows looked at the photo album, tears clogging her eyes. How? He ran the summer camp here, Slice replied as Barrows took the photo album. This was his home after all. And you were here as well, she said before she walked off. Have a look through, it should help. I'll have a look round. Maybe there's something else about here that could help you remember. Barrows didn't argue with Slice. She just opened the album and looked through the photos. Sure enough, on the first page were 8 photos, each one had a young girl with mint green hair and eyes. No doubt about it, that was her when she was younger. There was also a young girl with red in each photo as well. Probably that Slice woman when she was younger. One of the photos was most interesting. It was of her, sitting on the knee of an older man. He looked like he was in his 50s. Dull orange hair with a strip of white hair, and yellow eyes. He had a bright smile on his face. Was that, Papa? Meanwhile, Slice walked out of the damaged building and out into the forest around it. She'd give Barrows a few minutes to look through the photo album before she headed back. She needed some time to be alone to process this. She didn't walk far into the forest before she stopped. Before her stood an armored figure with a skeletal metal hand, leaning against a tree. Well, Slice? The figure asked. His voice, deep and sinister. She's not a heretic if that's what you're worried about, Slice replied, glaring at the man. Don't worry, the figure said. She's human, she can't be a heretic. I'm asking if she remembers anything yet. Slice shook her head, a sad frown on her face. No. I thought bringing her here would help jog her memory a bit, but it hasn't worked. I'm worried that there's nothing left of who she once was. That's why I left her with a scrapbook the old man had filled with photos of her, she said, wiping a tear away from her eyes. I just. You want your friend back, the figure said. Slice nodded. I can't help her, you know, the figure stated. We can't waste resources on helping a human. We're too busy with other things. Only you can. I know, Slice said. I just wish that I could just reach into her head and give her the memories back. But, with those barriers protecting her mind, I can't do that. The old man was quite attached to her, the figure remarked. It'll make sense he'd give her some means to protect herself from our kind. Those mental barriers he put up around her mind and soul are the only reason why she's alive right now and not a puppet like the rest of Hummerise. It would take years to break through those, and I don't think he'll appreciate it if you broke those down just to restore your friend's memories. I know, Slice said. But don't worry, I'm sure I can help her remember. No matter how long it takes, I'll help her to remember. Not that I have anything better to do. Unless another heretic shows up. By the way, are you sure it is wise to leave the last heretic who took over Hummerise alive? He's the most dangerous of the lot. No, the figure replied. But, the prefect ordered him to be targeted last. Moron. Never leave the strongest till last, he'll just build an army. An army he already has, Slice said. 200 puppets. All with powerful quirks, and a lot of trigger as well. I dread to think what he plans to do with that army. Good thing I stopped that train in Russia. His army would be twice its size by now. If I wasn't scared of him tearing my soul out and consuming it, then I would have taken that little toy I took from those raft boys, got their hands on, and killed him already. You do know that you shouldn't have done that, right? The figure said. You aren't like me. If either of those two noticed you, then they would have overwhelmed and devoured you. You got lucky with those two, with those traps of yours. How did you acquire those things anyway? Slice smiled. Marish sell to anyone, remember. The figure sighed. Of course the Marish Syndicate found a way here as well. Why are so many people interested in this little backwater planet? We wouldn't even be out here if it weren't for the heretics. Speaking of them, we located the other one, he said before he raised his skeletal hand. The hand retracted back into his arm, and a red energy blade came out of it. They'll be dead before daybreak. Just be quick about it, please, Slice said. The longer that last one remains alive, the more worried I get. Don't worry, I'll make sure he dies, the figure said. Oh yeah, just thought you should know, Jack's taken his car back. Of course, Slice said with a sigh. I take it he left something in its place, right? Yep, the figure said before he threw her some car keys. Slice grabbed the keys. You know, for a human, he's quite reliable, she said as she looked at the keys. She looked back up and saw that the figure was gone. Figures, she said before she turned and walked back to the building. When she came back to where she had Barrows, she found the woman sitting on the floor, the photo album lying on her lap. Atsuo Atsushi, she said, turning a page with her good hand. That was his name, wasn't it? Slice nodded. Yep, that was his name. Do you remember now? Bits, Barrows replied. It's still a mangled mess, but I've been able to piece most of this together from these pictures. We were friends, close friends, weren't we? Slice nodded. Yes. We were almost like sisters, you and I. We used to cause all kinds of chaos around her, getting on Atsuo and the other camp leaders' nerves. You were one of the few reasons why I always liked coming here. Barrows frowned. I don't remember any of it. All those memories, lost. Because of some shrapnel in my head. I want to remember all of this, but I can't. 20+ years of my life, taken from me. Just because one man wanted to kill another. I don't even know why Argonaut even wanted to kill Atsuo. I don't know either, Slice said. Atsuo was a good man. Always looking out for all of us at the camp, teaching us useful skills, setting up activities for us to do, helping us learn how to control our powers, come to terms with why the heretics created us in the first place, protecting us and keeping us safe. He treated all of us like we were his children. And we all loved him. For a lot of us, he was the only father-like figure we knew. And this dreadnought? We both saw him. I wouldn't have gone out into the forest at night poking around without you. It's why I brought you here. To help you remember. When Argonaut destroyed this place, I felt a piece of me get destroyed as well. And when you were reported missing, I didn't know what to do. After all the fun we had together, I didn't know what to do without you. So, seeing you out there on the streets, after so long, I just couldn't believe it. I just had to do something. I'm sorry. It's alright, Barrows said as she closed the photo album and held it close to her. I'm thankful for this opportunity. I finally know his name, and I know I had a friend. There's so much I still need to remember, but this dash, she tapped the book with her stump. This helps. Thank you. Slice smiles. It wasn't much, but it was progress. It may take months or even years, but hopefully, she'll eventually get her friend back. Barrows meanwhile was grateful for this woman's help. Thanks to Slice, she now knew more about her past. Why didn't she do this sooner? Why did she allow vengeance to cloud her mind? She should have focused on remembering what had been taken from her. Was her brain so messed up that she just didn't realize what had been taken from her? Why did she join Hummerize again? It was so long ago that she didn't really remember. How could that lot have helped her kill that Greek bastard? Maybe she thought that if she got rid of all quirks it would kill Argonaut somehow. Made sense, her brain was scrambled after all. But still, she had made friends there, and those freaks who took over killed them all, leaving them nothing more but mindless puppets. Someone needed to avenge them. But all she could do was hope that the heroes could deal with them, because she did not want to go back there. She didn't know why she was immune to their mind control or whatever it was, only that whatever the hell they were doing freaked her the fuck out. "You okay?" Slice asked, looking worried. "Yes, I'm fine," Barrows replied. "Just remembering something I'd rather not." "Don't worry, it's not from my forgotten past," she said before she stood up, struggling slightly due to only having one hand. "But, where do I go now? I can't stay here." You could stay with me," Slice said. "I can help you lay low from the heroes." Barrows looked at the other woman with a shocked look. "How do you know I'm on the run from heroes?" "Well, I may be slightly wanted by the authorities for a few things as well," Slice replied with a shrug. "But hey, at least we sort of doing what we did back in the day, just annoying heroes and not camp counselors, as well as the occasional dreadnought, even if it was the mother of all bad ideas." "You're a villain?" Barrows said deadpan. "Trust the only friend from before Argonaut messed it up turned out to be a villain." "Well, she was a villain herself, so she might as well go with her." "Thank you," Barrows said with a smile. "Don't mention it," Slice said with a friendly smile. "Friends look out for each other, remember? Now then, I have an apartment we can stay at that's an hour or two away. We should be able to lay low there for a while. Hopefully, it'll give you some time to get your memories back." Barrows nodded before the two headed back to the car. She may not be able to help Hummerize anymore, but at least she was on the path to recovering what she had lost. When they returned to the car, they found that the sedan that they used to get there was gone. In its place was a car that looked like it could fall apart any second. "That's not the car we came here in," she remarked. "What happened to the nice sedan you jacked?" Slice meanwhile looked downright pissed. "Jack, you fucking bastard!" she fumed. "This is the piece of shit you left me with. It's a pile of junk. I swear the next time I see that green hair bastard, I'm throwing him into the sea." Cut to the car in question. Jack was busy driving his car away from the forest. "Damn it, woman. Stop taking my car," he thought as he drove off. Why is it that whenever Slice needs a car, she always takes his? It's his car. This was very annoying. Especially when he has a date tonight. Back at the forest, Slice was breathing heavily, an angry look on her face. She absolutely refused to get into that hump of junk. Her hair would get dirty and ruined if she did. Barrows, meanwhile, just stood there looking confused. "So, what happened to the car we came here in?" she asked. "Oh, the guy I stole it from came back to collect it," Slice replied. "And replace it with a piece of shit," she growled. "I see," Barrows said. She had no idea who this Jack guy was, but he sounded like a friend of Slice. If only she could remember the woman's name. She was her friend, for God's sake. How could she have forgotten about her? What else had she forgotten? "Well then," Slice said, smirking. "Looks like we'll be having to use a different form of transportation to get there," she said before she clicked her fingers. There was a loud crash behind them. Barrows shuddered before she slowly turned and looked behind them. And found herself staring at a single sinister red light. Her jaw dropped. "What in the holy name of Armored Core 6 is that?" she asked as she took a step back. Slice smiled as she turned towards her friend. "Just a little something I stole from those raft guys. That will be it for this part. I hope everyone enjoyed. If you did, please leave a like and comment if you want part 70. If you want to hear more from me, subscribe. I hope to see you all in the next one.